Welcome to Nightmare Fuel Stories. Number the Watchers, I never wanted to be a security guard. It was supposed to be temporary, just something to pay the bills while I finished my degree in computer science. 6 months tops. That was 3 years ago. The Meridian Tower isn't a bad place to work. 68 floors of gleaming steel and glass in downtown Chicago, home to law firms, tech startups, financial services, and a smattering of other businesses I barely understand. The pay is decent, the hours predictable, and most importantly, the night shift is quiet, perfect for studying between rounds. At least it was quiet, until I noticed the patterns. It started on a Tuesday in October. I was making my 2 a.m. rounds, checking the executive floors like I always did. Most of the offices were dark, with only the exit signs and the dim glow from my flashlight illuminating the maze of cubicles and corner offices. I was passing the conference room on the 54th floor when something caught my eye. A flicker of movement on one of the security monitors mounted in the hallway. I stopped, backing up a few steps to look more closely. The monitor displayed the feed from the lobby. Standard procedure, all security stations throughout the building showed the lobby feed alongside whatever local cameras were relevant to that floor. At that hour, the lobby should have been empty except for Mitch, the other night guard who manned the front desk. But Mitch wasn't alone. A figure stood near the revolving doors, partially obscured by a large potted plant. I squinted, trying to make out details. The figure was tall, unnaturally so, and thin. It appeared to be wearing a dark suit. I keyed my radio. "Mitch, you got a visitor in the lobby." Static hissed for a moment before Mitch's voice came through. "Negative, Ellis, all quiet down here." I frowned, looking back at the monitor. The figure was still there, motionless. "You sure? I'm looking at the feed right now. There's someone by the east entrance, near the ficus." Another burst of static. "I'm staring right at that spot. There's nobody there, man." A chill ran up my spine. I watched as Mitch appeared on the screen, walking toward the area where the figure stood. He passed right by it, seemingly oblivious to its presence. "You just walked right past them," I said, my mouth dry. "Ellis, there's nobody here. You feeling okay?" I blinked, and when I looked at the monitor again, the figure was gone. I chalked it up to fatigue or maybe a glitch in the system. Old buildings, even fancy ones like the Meridian, have their quirks. But the next night I saw it again. This time on the 36th floor, standing in the kitchenette of a law firm. The same impossible height, the same dark suit. And again, when I radioed Mitch to check the feed from the security office, he saw nothing. By the third night, I was starting to question my sanity. The figure appeared in different locations throughout the building, always standing perfectly still, always gone when I tried to verify its presence with Mitch or the security recordings. On the fourth night, I decided to investigate directly. When I spotted the figure on the 42nd floor, I didn't radio Mitch. Instead, I took the service elevator down and made my way to the exact spot. The floor was occupied by an investment firm, its open-concept office filled with expensive ergonomic furniture and Bloomberg terminals. I moved quietly through the space, flashlight sweeping across empty desks. According to the monitor, the figure had been standing by the windows, looking out over the city. The spot was empty when I reached it, but the window felt cold to the touch, much colder than the surrounding glass. And there was a smell, faint but distinct, like ozone after a lightning strike or the metallic scent of blood. I was about to leave when I noticed something on the window, a mark like a handprint but wrong somehow. The fingers were too long, the palm too narrow. I raised my own hand beside it for comparison. The mysterious print was at least half again as large as my own, and I'm not a small man. The print began to fade even as I watched, evaporating like condensation. Within seconds it was gone. That's when I heard it, a soft clicking sound like nails tapping on glass. I turned slowly, sweeping my flashlight across the office. Nothing moved in the darkness. The clicking came again, closer this time. I backed toward the elevator, heart pounding. The sound followed, always just out of sight, just beyond the reach of my light. I made it to the elevator and jabbed the button repeatedly, cursing under my breath. The clicking grew louder, faster. The light on my flashlight began to flicker. When the elevator finally arrived, I practically dove inside, punching the button for the lobby. As the doors closed, my flashlight died completely. In that moment of total darkness, I saw it, a face peering at me from between the closing doors. A face with features that seemed to shift and blur, as if I was seeing it through rippling water. The only clear details were the eyes, black, reflective orbs that contained no white, no iris, just endless depth. The doors shut, and I collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. By the time I reached the lobby, I had convinced myself it was a trick of the light, a manifestation of stress and too many overnight shifts. Mitch looked up from his crossword puzzle as I stumbled out of the elevator. "You okay, Ellis?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just thought I heard something on 42. False alarm." He nodded, unconcerned. "Building makes all kinds of noises at night." You get used to it, but I wasn't hearing normal building noises, and over the next week things escalated. The figure, I had started thinking of it as the Watcher, appeared more frequently, and not just on one monitor at a time. I would see it in multiple locations simultaneously, always standing perfectly still, always watching. And it wasn't alone anymore. Other figures had joined it, similar in their unnatural height and thinness, but each subtly different. Some wore what looked like outdated business attire from different eras. Others wore what might have been uniforms, though I couldn't identify from where or when. None of them appeared on the official security recordings. I checked repeatedly, reviewing hours of footage from the nights when I'd seen them. The monitors showed empty hallways, vacant offices. Mitch never saw them, nor did the day shift guards when I cautiously asked if they'd noticed anything unusual. It was as if the Watchers existed only for me. I started keeping a log, noting the time and location of each sighting. At first I thought they were random, but after 2 weeks a pattern emerged. They appeared most frequently on floors that were under construction or being renovated. They clustered around certain offices, particularly those belonging to executives or partners. And they seemed to be most active between 2:15 and 3:33 a.m. The clicking sounds continued too, sometimes distant, sometimes so close it felt like they were right behind me. I never caught more than glimpses of them in person, a tall shadow disappearing around a corner, the reflection of those black eyes in a window, the lingering cold spot where one had stood. By the 3rd week I was barely sleeping during the day. I'd lie in bed in my studio apartment, staring at the ceiling, convinced that if I closed my eyes, I'd open them to find one of the Watchers standing over me. My coursework suffered, I missed classes. My few friends stopped calling after I canceled plans one too many times. I knew I should quit, find another job, but something kept me coming back night after night. A compulsion to understand what I was seeing, to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my mind. Then came the night everything changed. I was on the 60th floor, checking the executive suite of a tech company. Their CEO was some Silicon Valley transplant who'd moved the operation to Chicago for tax reasons. The office was all minimalist furniture and abstract art worth more than I'd make in a decade. The monitor in the hallway showed the usual lobby feed, but tonight the lobby wasn't empty. It was filled with Watchers, dozens of them, standing in perfect rows, all facing the camera, all seeming to look directly at me. My radio crackled. "Ellis, you need to see this." Mitch's voice was tight, controlled in a way that suggested he was anything but. "I'm seeing it," I replied, unable to look away from the monitor. "The lobby's full of them." A pause. "Full of what?" "I'm talking about the security logs. Someone's been in the building every night this month, but there's no record of them leaving." I frowned, momentarily distracted from the horrifying image on the screen. "What do you mean?" "I mean the key card system shows people entering after hours, mostly execs staying late, but there's no record of them swiping out. According to this, there should be 17 people still in the building right now." I looked back at the monitor. The Watchers remained motionless, 17 of them in the front row, I realized with a jolt, behind them many more. "Mitch," I said slowly, "are you looking at the lobby right now?" "Yeah, why? What do you see?" "Nothing, it's empty." "Ellis, what's going on?" My mouth went dry. "I think you should call the police." "For what?" "Some glitch in the key card system." "Please, Mitch, just do it." He must have heard something in my voice because he didn't argue further. "All right, I'll call, but if this is nothing, you're buying coffee for a month." I barely heard his last words. On the monitor, the Watchers had begun to move, not walking exactly, more like flickering. One moment they were in perfect rows, the next they were scattered throughout the lobby in different positions, as if the feed was jumping forward in time. And they were looking up, all those featureless faces with their black eyes tilted upward. Looking toward the upper floors, looking toward me. My radio crackled again, but this time there were no words, just a high-pitched squeal followed by the clicking sound that had been haunting me for weeks. It was coming through the radio now, impossibly loud. I dropped the device, clapping my hands over my ears. The monitor flickered, and suddenly the Watchers weren't in the lobby anymore. The feed showed an empty space just as Mitch had described. A soft ding made me turn. The elevator at the end of the hall had arrived, though I hadn't called it. Its doors slid open, revealing an empty car. No, not empty. As I watched, the air inside the elevator seemed to ripple, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. The ripples took shape, tall, thin shapes that solidified into the now familiar forms of the Watchers. I backed away, my heart hammering against my ribs. The nearest fire exit was 30 feet down the hall, past the elevator. I'd have to run right by them. The overhead lights began to flicker and dim. In the strobing half-light, the Watchers stepped out of the elevator one by one. 7 of them, moving with a jerky, unnatural gait, as if they weren't accustomed to walking. Or as if they were moving between moments in time, existing in multiple seconds simultaneously. I turned and ran the other way, toward the executive office at the end of the hall. It had a heavy door, something I could barricade. I slammed it behind me, fumbling in the dark for something to block it with. My hands found a sleek modern chair, which I wedged under the handle. It wouldn't hold them for long, but maybe long enough for me to find another way out. The office was large, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of nighttime Chicago. I could see other skyscrapers, their windows lit up in patterns as unique as fingerprints. So many buildings, so many windows. So many places to watch from. A soft tapping came from the door, not pounding or banging, just gentle, rhythmic tapping, click, 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 like nails on wood. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice cracking. "What are you?" The tapping stopped. For a moment there was absolute silence. Then a voice came from everywhere and nowhere, not heard with my ears, but felt in my mind. "We are the Watchers. We have always been the Watchers." The voice wasn't human. It was many voices layered together, speaking in perfect unison, with a quality that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. "What are you watching for?" I asked, pressing my back against the cold window. "We watch the patterns, we watch the connections, we watch the flow of information and energy and thought." The temperature in the room plummeted. I could see my breath clouding in front of me. The window at my back grew so cold it burned. "Why can I see you when others can't?" A pause. The tapping resumed, softer now, almost thoughtful. "You are a node, a connection point. A place where patterns intersect." I didn't understand, but I sensed they were trying to explain something beyond human comprehension in terms I could grasp. "The others who enter but don't leave," I said, remembering what Mitch had told me. "What happens to them? They become part of the pattern. They watch with us now." A chill that had nothing to do with the cold ran through me. "You're taking people, not taking, transforming, elevating. The pattern must be maintained. The watching must continue." The chair blocking the door began to slide away, pushed by an invisible force. I looked around desperately for another exit, another weapon, anything. The office was minimalist to the point of barrenness, just a desk, a few chairs, and a large abstract painting that probably cost more than my yearly salary. The door swung open. The hallway beyond was dark, but I could make out the silhouettes of the Watchers, their unnaturally elongated forms blocking any escape. "Please," I said, though I wasn't sure what I was begging for. "Understanding, mercy. I don't want to become part of your pattern." "All things are part of the pattern," the voice replied. "You have been part of it since before you were born. We have watched you, Ellis Chen. We have watched you watching." They knew my name. Of course they did. They'd been watching me as I watched them. The Watchers began to enter the room, moving with that same jerky, time-skipping motion. I pressed harder against the window, as if I could somehow pass through it. "The others," I said, a desperate idea forming. "The 17 people still in the building. If I help you find them, will you let me go?" The Watchers paused. The voice, when it came again, seemed amused. "They are already found. They are already watching, and now so will you." One of them reached toward me, its arm extending impossibly, fingers elongating until they were inches from my face. I could see now that they weren't wearing suits, as I'd first thought. The dark material was their skin, or something like skin, a shifting, rippling surface that never quite settled into a fixed pattern. The fingers touched my forehead, and the world changed. I could see everything. Every room in the Meridian Tower, every person, every electronic device pulsing with data. I could see the patterns of movement, the flow of information, the connections between people and machines and ideas. It was beautiful and terrifying and overwhelming, and I could see beyond the tower other buildings, other Watchers. Thousands of them, millions, standing in offices and homes and public spaces all over the city, all over the world, watching. Always watching, I understood then. They weren't aliens or ghosts or demons. They were something else entirely, entities that existed alongside our reality, perceiving it in ways we couldn't comprehend. They had been here all along, observing humanity's patterns, our civilizations, our technologies, especially our technologies, because that's what had drawn their attention in the first place. Our cities with their grids of streets and power lines and fiber optic cables. Our buildings, rising higher and higher, filled with machines that processed and transmitted information. Our entire world increasingly connected, increasingly patterned. We had been building a habitat for them without knowing it, creating spaces that resonated with their mode of existence. And now they were transforming us one by one to join them in their watching. The finger withdrew from my forehead and I collapsed to my knees, gasping. The vision faded, leaving me disoriented and nauseous. "Do you understand now?" the voice asked. "Yes," I whispered, though I didn't, not fully. "No human mind could." "Good, then you are ready to join the pattern." The Watchers moved closer, surrounding me in a tight circle. Their forms began to blur and shift, merging together into a dark mass that enveloped me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't scream. I felt myself changing, stretching, my consciousness expanding even as my humanity diminished. The patterns became clearer, more beautiful, more all-consuming. I was becoming one of them, a watcher. The last thing I remember as Ellis Chen human was the sound of sirens in the distance. Mitch had called the police after all. But they would find nothing, just an empty building with a security system that showed 17 people who had entered but never left. And now, 18. I stand at the window of the executive office, looking out over the city. My form is tall now, thin, my limbs elongated beyond human proportions. My eyes see in ways they never could before, perceiving patterns and connections invisible to ordinary sight. I am not alone. The others stand with me, those who were transformed before and those who will help transform others. We watch the city, the data flowing through it like blood through veins, the people moving in their predictable patterns. Soon the day shift will arrive. The building will fill with workers who cannot see us, though we stand among them, watching, always watching. Occasionally one of them will sense us. A security guard making his rounds, perhaps, or an executive working late. They'll catch a glimpse in a monitor, feel the cold spot where we stand, hear the clicking that is our language. And if they are the right ones, if they are nodes, connection points in the pattern, we will reveal ourselves fully. We will transform them. The pattern must grow. The watching must continue. After all, that's what buildings like the Meridian were made for. Not for the humans who work in them during the day, but for us, the watchers who observe during the long, dark hours of night. I move away from the window, my movements jerky and disjointed as I skip between moments in time. There's a new security guard starting tonight, replacing Ellis Chen, who disappeared under mysterious circumstances. The police investigation found nothing, of course, just another unsolved case in a city full of them. The new guard will make his rounds, he will check the monitors, and perhaps, if he is the right one, he will see us watching. And the pattern will continue. Click, 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 we remain, we watch, we wait.